everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ellie if you've never been here before, and on this channel I upload whatever I want. This is going to be the 5th installment of the Tackling the TBR series that I started on the 4th of July. I may not read as much as your favorite booktuber, but I have really been reading a lot more lately than I have in the past few months due to this challenge. I have to give the challenge credit. It's been holding me accountable, filming what books I pick, filming me reading them, and then uploading for you guys to see. But I am so excited to pick my next book, but I'm also really nervous because the last episode might have been one of my favorites so far because I got to read Every Summer After. I did cheat a little bit in the last episode. I really wanted a modern read, so if I didn't pick something modern the first time, then I chose something willingly, and then the book that I did pick I read afterwards. So I did do that in the last episode. I thought about doing that for this episode as well because I am going out of town for the weekend, but it's gonna be okay regardless of what book I pick first. I'm really gonna try to read that book, but if it's just not fitting the vibe, I do have a book on my iPad that I'm reading through Libby right now digitally that I am really enjoying, so I will probably read that one over the weekend if I can't really get into the book that I pick first. If you have never seen one of these videos on my channel before, I do have a playlist full of all of my episodes. All of the 4 other episodes that I filmed before this one are in that playlist, and in my very first episode I go over how many books I have physically, how many slips of paper I have in my Jellycat bag, and just kind of my rules and just ideas that I have for myself personally. I give credit to the creators that I was inspired by to make this challenge in that episode, so please go to my first video so you can check out the video but also check out those creators as well. Quick rundown is that I own way too many books physically that I've owned for years that I don't want to read. Most people would say then don't read them. However, I just can't part with them without at least giving them a chance. So I had 51 books at the beginning of this series. I put all the titles of the books in a Jellycat bag. However, the twist is I did it Hunger Games reaping style. So if a book was published 10 years ago, then it has 10 entries into the bag. So I will most likely get older books, but there's a chance that I will get something more modern in the mix. I really want Killer Instinct, and I'm voicing my preference for it, but my husband checked for me and there's a 2.5% chance that I'll get it today, so we will see. But I'm only gonna pick the first slip of paper right now, and then when I finish that book I will pick my next slip. So let's do this. Actually, before I pick my next book, I do want to highlight the books that I read in the previous episode. That is Every Summer After by Carly Fortune and Maximum Ride School's Out Forever by James Patterson. If you want to see my ratings and reviews and my thoughts while reading these books, then go check out episode 4. Actually, I need to find a place to put this on my shelf because this is a keep, but unfortunately I think it goes in the tightest. Wait, maybe not. There might actually be space for this. There is. Anyways, there are 459 slips of paper in here. There aren't anymore. And the slips of the books that I have read already, but have like 25 slips, they're still gonna be in here because obviously I didn't pull them out. But here we go. Oh, okay. So this is More Than a Carpenter by Josh McDowell and Sean McDowell. This is actually one that I have had for a long time, and it's actually sitting right here, and it's very small. I honestly can't remember where I got this book from. It's not for individual sales. I'm sure it came in like a set and then it was given to me, but it says, "The story that could change your life. Skeptic Josh McDowell thought Christians were out of their minds. He ridiculed and insulted them, then decided to combat them with his own thorough research to disprove the claims of Jesus Christ. To his surprise, he discovered that the evidence suggested exactly the opposite. that Jesus, instead of being simply a first-century Hebrew carpenter, truly was the God he claimed to be. With over 15 million copies in print since its original publication, More Than a Carpenter has changed countless lives. Now, in this revised and updated edition, Josh is joined by his son, Sean, as they tackle the questions that today's generation continues to ask. Can I be spiritual without believing in God? How can I make sure that my life counts for something? And is it really possible to know anything for sure about God or Jesus? Read the story, weigh the facts, experience his love, and then watch what happens. This book only has 168 pages, so this should be a pretty quick read, but I know it is more like in depth, and it's obviously not like a fiction book, so it might take me a little bit longer because I would like to like highlight and take notes and things on this. So I'm actually really excited that I've gotten this one because I have wanted to read this for a really long time, and it's been recommended to me for a really long time. So, More Than a Carpenter. All right, I am currently on chapter 3, page 27 of More Than a Carpenter. So I am just getting into the book as a whole. But I will say, I am really intrigued by this. I haven't read a nonfiction type book. I don't want to say ever because that's not true. In a while, I will say. I did read a couple like nonfiction educational type books, especially in the education field during college, of course. But I haven't read one like by choice, like from my personal library. And I will say More Than a Carpenter is one that I am definitely like intrigued by. It has piqued my interest. I am annotating this one while I read it. So I do have tabs and a highlighter and a pen, and I'm not necessarily doing any tabs like a system. I'm just really highlighting and then putting really any color tab in a place that I want to mark it. But I do want to share my like initial thoughts going in deeper about the book. I barely started this last night, and I'm going to be reading a big chunk of it today. I definitely am trying to take this one in for all that it is offering. I guess I can share like one thing that I've tabbed. It does feel kind of personal. But one thing that I've tabbed, basically in the first chapter, or one of the authors is talking about how he was very like, just talks about Christianity and Jesus himself was like off-putting to him, and just even hearing the name of Jesus, just like he just didn't want to hear it. He thought of all Christians as the same type of people, and he just really did not want to partake in any conversation about it. He just wanted nothing to do with it. He begins talking about how he is trying to find his life's purpose, and how he just really feels like his life is meant to be given to a cause. And so he talks about like joining clubs at school, or just really seeking out education as a whole, or just all the different avenues of life that people tend to take to find their purpose. And at one point he like meets this group of people, and he doesn't really go into detail about who this group of people are and like what they necessarily claim like as a group. It could have just been like a friend group that he saw or came across, or it could have been a club. But essentially he challenged them into like why they believe what they believe, and in return they challenged him to figure out for himself who Jesus is and who he claimed to be, and why, because of those claims, they chose, and why he should choose to follow him, I guess. And so he basically takes the challenge, and he spends like, I don't know, months really like doing the research for himself. And basically he's trying to find all of this evidence, because in his heart and in his mind and in the way that he puts his faith into things, he was just like, I need to find evidence, or else this is just all fantasy land. And so he says, and I found evidence in abundance, evidence I would not have believed had I not seen it with my own eyes. Finally, I could come to only one conclusion. If I were to remain intellectually honest, I had to admit that the Old and New Testament documents were some of the most reliable writings in all of antiquity. And if they were reliable, what about this man Jesus, whom I had dismissed as a mere carpenter, in an out-of-the-way town in a tiny oppressed country, a man who had gotten caught up in his own visions of grandeur? I had to admit that Jesus Christ was more than a carpenter. he was all he claimed to be. And that just kind of goes into like the next chapter. It's called What Makes Jesus So Different, and that's the chapter I just finished right now. And that chapter just goes into all of the claims that Jesus made about himself. So it's not even getting into what other people claim Jesus was or what history makes Jesus to be. It's just his own claims about himself, just like based off of faith alone. I really resonated with that portion of the first chapter because I'm just like, if I believe he is who he claims to be, then what should I be doing? How should I be living my life? And so, yeah, I'm definitely really intrigued and interested in continuing this. Also, the writing, although it's like an informational type book, I'm not getting that. It feels very personable. The author, I really feel like I'm connecting to the author because he's just sharing his story. He's not saying you should do this because this, or you should believe this because this. It's more like, I didn't believe, and so I was challenged, and I now believe this because of this, and I believe this because of this. He's really not saying do this, do this, do this. It's just like laying out what he has found, and you just kind of take what applies. Basically, here's what I've done and what are you gonna do with it, kind of. And so yeah, chapter 3 is called Lord, Liar, or Lunatic. And so I'm really, like I said, intrigued. I don't know what other word to use. I'm very intrigued to see what the next chapter brings. It's going good so far. Okay guys, I finished More Than a Carpenter by Josh McDowell and Sean McDowell. I don't think that I got a lot of footage for the reading of this book, but it also is pretty short. I will give you guys my final rating and reviews at the end of this video like I normally do, but it's time to pick my second book of this episode, and I'm nervous. I'm always nervous because I know there's still so many books that are on here that are so old. Like, I have Sense and Sensibility still on the list. Apparently whenever, this was $2, okay, and that was like back then. I probably paid more than what it was worth, to be honest. This is in there. All of my like mass market paperbacks, like the James Patterson books that I have, are on there. But there are a few, like, I think they're dwindling. I think the older books are dwindling for sure. Again, I say this every episode, but I really want to continue the Natural series. I am on Killer Instinct, barely the second book. But anyways, time to pick the second book of this episode. Let me shake it. Okay, I have a slip, please. The Pearl by John Steinbeck I've already read. There's 32 slips. I feel like this might be the oldest one, or one of the oldest ones. Okay, that's good. There's 30 more slips of that in there. Sometimes they're like so bunched together that you can't grab one. Okay, I think this is one. I jinxed myself. I jinxed myself. This might be the oldest one. I just put it out. I got Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. Actually, no, there's 28. And there's 32 of the Pearl. So, my next read will be Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. Here it is. I thrifted this copy, which is probably why it was $2. But I don't know if it will focus, but it literally says $2 like printed on the book. It's like not a sticker. But anyways, this is Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. Also, does it matter if this is the unabridged version? What does that mean? I don't know. There are 261 pages in this. I did read Pride and Prejudice a while ago. That had to have been in like 2020, early 2020. I remember it being like the winter time. I did read Pride and Prejudice. This is the copy I have. I thrifted these at the same time actually. So it'll be nice to finally get to this. I have no idea what Sense and Sensibility is about. So I'm gonna read the back of the book. Within the insular world of the English countryside, among struggling clerical families, husband-hunting mothers and daughters, country fools and snobs, Jane Austen found the raw material she needed to write brilliant novels widely admired for their satiric wit, subtlety, and perfection of style. Sense and Sensibility is one of the best of these. It is the story of two sisters, Eleanor and Marianne Dashwood, who represent sense and sensibility, respectively. When both appear to be deserted by the young men they had intended to marry, the stage is set for a delicious comedy of manners that not only showcases Austen's perception, humor, and incomparable prose, but offers a splendid glimpse of upper and middle class English society of the early 19th century. I'm nervous for this because I already know that the language, the writing style is going to be so old, but I'm also excited for it. Wait, this was published in 1811. The original edition. So it's written in the 1800s and it's based in the 1800s. So the writing's gonna be like hard to grasp. However, I'm excited because it's Regency, like period piece type stuff. And I'm about to eat it up. Here we go. I can't believe I finally got this. I've been dreading this one since I started this challenge. I'm filming on my phone, so if the audio is different or if the video quality is different, that is why. But I wanted to check in for this video. I have not checked in or really read at all for a while, but today that is a goal of mine, is to get some reading done. I am subbing today. I am in a high school English classroom. I'm on my prep right now. Because I am in high school today, I have a lot of downtime. This school actually has 70-minute class periods, so I have a lot of time without transitions to be reading. I have an hour to read, so I am going to do that. It is so cold in this room, that's why I have my coat on, but it is 9:30 right now. The next class is at 10:35. Back to reading. I did want to give my initial thoughts. I'm not sure if I have yet. I'm only on page 12, chapter 4. It takes a lot of brain power to read this. I have to really think about what I'm reading and get into the zone. It takes a couple pages for me to like switch to the era and style of writing. It does pick up a little bit on the dialogue, but it's a lot. It's a lot to read through, like the descriptions and the narrative parts of it. So I started reading a little bit during the first period, but the group that was sitting like right next to the teacher's desk was kind of loud. They were on task for the most part, but they were just kind of like talking pretty loudly. And so it was a little difficult to focus because this book takes a lot of focus. But I will say, like I already mentioned, the dialogue is definitely something that draws in my interest, and it actually, like, I am able to comprehend what's going on in the dialogue a lot more. I really haven't gotten into a lot of the story. I'm still trying to like figure out the characters, especially because two of the characters have the same name because they're both married. So one's married to the son and one's married to the dad, and so their names are both Mrs. Dashwood, because one is Mrs. John Dashwood and one is Mrs. Dashwood. Actually, I'm kind of glad that I'm explaining this on the camera because it's helping me understand what's going on. I'm coming to like sister relationships in books because it reminds me a lot of the care that I have for my sister, and I know the care that my sister has for me. But Marianne is talking about herself now, and she says, "I could not be happy with a man whose taste did not in every point coincide with my own. He must enter into all my feelings. The same books, the same music must charm us both." She talks about how spiritless and how tame was Edward's manner in reading to us last night. I felt for my sister most severely. Yet she bore it with so much composure, she seemed scarcely to notice it. I could hardly keep my seat to hear those beautiful lines which have frequently almost driven me wild, pronounced with such impenetrable calmness, such dreadful indifference. And then she goes on and says, "Eleanor has not my feelings, and therefore she may overlook it and be happy with him. But it would have broke my heart had I loved him to hear him read with so little sensibility." And so you can just kind of tell, Sense and Sensibility. It's just like a perfect picture of them, of the sisters. Like, one is just kind of like, it's the sensible thing to do. It's like just logical. She's getting married. She hasn't found someone who is just like adores her, And the other sister, Marianne, it's so important to her, just like the little things and everything. She feels things very deeply. And so I'm interested because I know that this book has such a huge emphasis on sister relationships. I'm very interested to see where it takes it, but I'll let you guys know how far along I get. I'll keep you updated. We will see. Hopefully I can like actually focus on the story now that it's quiet in here. I'll say it again. I'm very glad that I started explaining it to the camera because I feel like I understand what's going on a little bit more. So that's good. Coming at you from a new angle. I am making dinner right now. But I'm listening to the audiobook of Sense and Sensibility. I don't know why, but I keep wanting to say Pride and Prejudice when it's not Pride and Prejudice. I've read Pride and Prejudice. Pride and Prejudice. But I've been listening to the audiobook of Sense and Sensibility for the past couple of days, here and there. And I'm listening to it right now while I am making dinner. For context, this is what we're having for dinner. It's cheeseburger rigatoni. Very easy meal. It's like a gourmet version of Hamburger Helper, basically. Hamburger Helper, but made from scratch with like real cheese, meat, and yeah. I just felt like I feel like I need to check in and update you guys on how I'm feeling with Sense and Sensibility. I kind of lost the plot a little bit. I don't really know what's going on. I'm a little confused. So at one point we're all for Marianne and Willoughby, but Willoughby's gone now, and I kind of just lost where and when he left. So I'm just a little bit confused because I'm just like, are we supposed to be warning him? Like, did he tell us when he left? And honestly, I just can't be bothered to go back because it's already taking me so much to be in the story, and I don't know how far back he left in the book. So I'm kind of just going with the flow, and hoping that things will be explained maybe again. I don't know. Might just have to watch the movie or the film adaptation to get that part of the story. But as of right now, I'm a little lost, I'm not gonna lie. So just thought I would update you guys. I'll keep you updated. Right now I am just starting chapter 19, which is only 25% of the way through, so this is gonna take me a while, but my goal is to finish reading or at least listening to the story by mid next week, so that way I can edit the video and it can go up for you guys by Saturday, because I definitely am ready to move on to another book, but I also want to get another TBR video up because it's been a while. Maybe if I find out what happened to Willoughby, I'll let you guys know. Please don't be mad at me for not like seeking out the answer. I don't have the time, okay? I don't. I'm just proud of myself for even reading at all. Hi guys. It has not been very long since I last updated you, but I have been listening to the audiobook of Sense and Sensibility non-stop. And I have about an hour and 15 minutes-ish left, a little over an hour left in the audiobook. I'm on page 216, I believe. It might be a little bit after that, but there are only 260 pages. 261 pages. There is a lot going on. This book is drama, okay? Like, it has so much more drama than I thought it would have, which I have read Pride and Prejudice, and I know that Pride and Prejudice has its drama, but in my opinion, I'm gonna definitely be looking into this after I finish this, but I feel like Sense and Sensibility has more, like, oh my gosh. Anyways, I feel like Sense and Sensibility has more like tea. You wouldn't expect it from a classic, but you absolutely should. My rating for Pride and Prejudice is so much higher than my rating for Sense and Sensibility will be. Only because Pride and Prejudice, like, I don't want to give my rating away, but Pride and Prejudice has so much more like it just pulls on your heartstrings a little bit, and it's so much more like deeper in a way than Sense and Sensibility is to me. Sense and Sensibility is more like, yes, there's drama, but I don't deeply feel for the characters. but I do really like the sister dynamic, and I've enjoyed seeing that. So my rating won't be extremely low for Sense and Sensibility, but when I compare it to Pride and Prejudice, it's just not, it doesn't hit the same. But I'm so excited to be done because I can't wait to watch film adaptations and even tell my mom, because my mom is a big like classics reader. I think her favorite classic is Jane Eyre, so I might need to read that at some point in my lifetime. But I can't wait to tell my mom that I finished this because she's gonna be so proud of me. But I cannot wait to watch the adaptations. I believe there's like 2 or 3, and I'm really interested to see them and see what they made of the story and also make sense of the story, because it really takes a lot to understand what's going on just because it was written so long ago. I'm hoping I can finish it soon, but I know I'm gonna be leaving soon, so I don't know. I'm gonna try to finish it, but it might be a little while until I can check in with you guys to let you know that I finished it and that I am gonna be picking my next book, which will be the next episode, but my final ratings, I guess. Hi guys, it's that time of the video. I just finished Sense and Sensibility, so I'm gonna give my ratings and reviews for both books. It's been a while since I read this one actually, so I'm gonna have to remember all that I thought of and what my rating and review will be for both. But the first book that I read in this video is More Than a Carpenter by Josh and Sean McDowell. This was a great book. It really, not to get too much into it, but it really like kickstarted a lot of conversations that I've been having with myself and with others. And I think regardless of where you're at in your faith, I think most importantly, it's a conversation starter. It like inspires you to think about what you base your faith in and why. And so I really enjoyed this book. As you can see, I tabbed it and annotated it. I don't really annotate and tab books, but I just really wanted to for this one. I wanted to remember and be able to go back to like crucial points. This is a very short little nonfiction book. It's more of like a commentary, but I rated More Than a Carpenter 5 stars, and I do highly recommend this book, especially to people who are like doubting, you know? Anyways, More Than a Carpenter. The second book that I read in this episode was Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. This was a classic. I really had to rely on listening to the audiobook for this one. This one was a lot harder to get into in comparison to Pride and Prejudice. I think I mentioned this already in like a previous clip, but Pride and Prejudice, like just, I felt like was so much deeper than Sense and Sensibility was. And you can like take the conversations and the situations, issues that happen in Sense and Sensibility and like go into deeper issues on them and have like discussions about why those things happened and, you know, like what that means. But I just feel like Pride and Prejudice is so much more like on the page in a way. I don't know. It just felt different. One word that I can think of to describe Sense and Sensibility is drama. If you want to read a classic, just pure classic book that is also like spilling tea, I guess, you should read Sense and Sensibility. Like, I don't know what I was expecting, but a lot happens in this book. I can't necessarily say that I relate to any of the characters, and I don't ever really need to relate to the characters, but it does help in my connections to books and my ultimately my ratings for them. But I don't know, the one thing that I really loved about this book is the sister dynamic between Eleanor and Marianne. Other than that, just a lot happens. I can't wait to watch an adaptation. So my final rating for Sense and Sensibility is 3 stars. I just finished this and then I wanted to like gather my thoughts and eat lunch, but my final rating is 3 stars. It's not necessarily a bad book. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. I didn't resonate with it as much as I did Pride and Prejudice. I don't know the word for it, but I just felt like Pride and Prejudice just was so much more deeper, and maybe it's unfair of me to compare the two, but I feel like if you've read both Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility, you would agree with me. Also, I was able to read the physical version of Pride and Prejudice for the most part, and the fact that I really could not get into the physical book for Sense and Sensibility, I just feel like that speaks volumes in a way. Anyways, these are the 2 books that I read in this episode. If you want to check out the next episode, then I highly recommend you subscribe because I'm about to go and pull my next read. So I highly, highly recommend that. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. If you like me, please subscribe for more content like this. And go ahead and leave a comment. I love interacting with the comments. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.